Hi guys, welcome back to AFTV and the Tactical Insight Show. I'm back with Graham. We've got smiles on our faces, probably because we've been sat here just thinking how ludicrous some of the goals are that we conceded over the weekend. It's not the start we wanted, but before we go into how are you doing?
Very well, mate. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for the very positive feedback that we had last week to the show, the comments. Absolutely overwhelmed, humbled by a lot of the comments, and that you enjoy the show that me and James put together meant a lot to me personally. Anybody who wants to ask me a question this week, I'll try to get back to all comments during the week, James. So very pleased with the comments, and the 105k, the numbers showed that 105k, excellent numbers for the first show.
Yeah,
and I just want to shout out to yourself, James, because the work that you put in putting that together last week, the content you created and all the things that you make it easy for me to come up here now and do this show. So just a big shout out to yourself for what you put together, the work you put in, mate.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you, Graham. But you know, likewise to you, because trust me, the amount of notes and stuff we go through, like Graham's prep is unbelievable. So thank you.
You put it all together, though, mate.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you to you, and thank you for you guys for tuning in. So. Right, smiles out of the way now. We've started on, it's a new week, so you know, new hope and optimism as always, but before we go into all that, we do need to talk about this Brentford game. There's the game itself, but as always with Arsenal, there's always another plot, there's always something else going on. And this week it was Lacazette and Aubameyang. I just got to get your instant reaction in terms of the lack, not just their inclusion, how it impacted Arsenal on the pitch, but more so whether you think there's more to this whole illness that we're hearing about.
It just didn't feel right to me, James. On Friday when I heard it on my laptop at work, it just didn't feel right. And the comments we hear coming out since, I think, prove that there's something going on beyond the illness. The fact that they're being linked to Barcelona, I think personally, there's a disconnect between Lacazette and Aubameyang and Arteta, and that's what I honestly feel. I think it comes from the style of play that Arteta's playing. I don't think it suits Aubameyang. He's only scored one goal in his last competitive matches. Lacazette, talk about him moving on. He must have known Chelsea were interested in Abraham. Maybe that sort of like was upsetting him, and they are great friends. But I think ultimately it boils down to pre-season we didn't prepare well enough. That was showed in the results, and to go into our first game against Brentford with not only injuries to two key players, Partey and Gabriel, to have Saka not quite ready because of his England involvement, and Martinelli coming back from the Olympics, then to lose our key players. Let's face it, they're on between, one's on 250, 300k a week, one's on 180, isn't he? 500k a week. That is where our money's spent in our strikers, and to go into our first game without both of them, I think was a massive blow. And I know I said last week on this show, before people put me up on it, that I said I'd only play one of them in that system that Arteta plays, but I did say if you're going to play them together, you can play them in a two but change the shape, and I will today talk about how we can do that. But to lose both of them, absolutely massive blow. I do think there's something going on behind the scenes.
I 100% agree. I came away from it. The minute I saw the news, I thought, this feels a bit weird. And I spent the last month seeing us linked to strikers and thinking, why are we being linked to strikers? That does not feel like a problem area for us right now. You then hear the illness of one, you then hear the illness of the other, then you hear after the game that they're likely going to be out for the Chelsea game this weekend, and you're thinking this does not add up right. I don't think Arteta helped with some of his comments, so I definitely think there's more to it. The funny thing about it is, we were talking about a system in which they maybe perhaps could fit together, as we saw under Emery, but that realistically it's got to be one or the other. But we never said we wanted neither of them. No. You know, we do acknowledge that in a functioning team they score goals, and they're a real miss.
Fail to prepare and prepared to fail. We didn't do our business in the transfer window, and we didn't get the team set up right on the day. We had to bring in two young players to make the 11. To play them together for the first time was not ideal.
Yeah.
So I just think everything was wrong going into this game.
I completely agree. I wanted to actually put up a stat because I've been thinking about this over-reliance on Aubameyang and Lacazette, and in fairness, it's not just us. You know, teams that have top strikers and forwards and goal scorers are always going to rely on them heavily. but us perhaps a little more so than other sides. So apart from Spurs, who rely on Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, who've scored 50% of their goals since this is, by the way, since the 2018-19 season, when Unai Emery was in, and this was Aubameyang and Lacazette's first full season together. Obviously, 50% of Spurs' goals have come from their famous front two. 49% of our goals, of Premier League goals, have come from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang or Alex Lacazette. You then look at Liverpool, Sadio Mane and Mo Salah, 47%. Man United, Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial with 34%. And then City with Raheem Sterling and Sergio Aguero, 31% there. Chelsea I put not applicable because they're getting a new striker every summer. But I did think those were interesting stats, that it just shows you in the Premier League, without them, we've been, I mean, let's face it, we've been drawing blanks even with them in the side, but quite frankly, they're our best opportunity at getting a goal.
Yeah, Aubameyang has not been scoring lately, though. That's been the problem. I think that's part of the disconnect. The way Arteta plays clearly doesn't play to his strengths. He likes the ball in behind, he likes the ball to run onto. All our forward players do not fit the system that Arteta plays. They are more based on counter-attack, you know, with pace in behind. Even Balogun, the player we brought in, is more likes the ball in front of him, James, you know. So and that's the problem. And I think that after a while, players, when they're not performing, start questioning the manager. Now, if this was Alex Ferguson managing Arsenal, he'd probably get away with it. But let's face it, Mikel Arteta, he might be able to deal with players like Guendouzi, but he's got to deal with Lacazette and Aubameyang, experienced professionals who have played the game for a long time. He's got no credit in the bank. He's won an FA Cup, but they look upon him as an almost like a rookie manager. And I think they're questioning Arteta, and I think there's been a fallout on the training ground. They're unhappy with the system, and that's led to what this has become, in my opinion.
I completely agree. Now, we saw the 11. It was Balogun who came in. What did you make of that call?
I think his hands were tied, James. I think that's all he could do. And it was a good experience for Balogun. I didn't think he was... the problem he had was he was up against a very experienced centre-half, Janssen. They played a back three. Janssen, the Swede, the captain, literally took it upon himself to mark Balogun. Now, Balogun in that Arsenal system was always going to struggle. The way we played, he was running into the same lanes as Martinelli, because Martinelli was coming inside to allow Tierney to come up high. I think he struggled in that system, and you know, his hold-up play can improve. I think you know, it's different at this level. It would have been a good experience for him. He's got qualities, we know that, and I don't think we can be too displeased. You know, so
I was delighted to see him in the 11. I thought that was really brave of Arteta, and I thought it was. That's right, you know, okay, Aubameyang, Lacazette, the senior strikers, and Nketiah's a guy who's been turning to as a reserve. None of them are available. The easy thing was to put Martinelli up front and bring Saka in early. But he said, no, Saka's not ready, and I'm going to put my faith in Balogun. I find it difficult to judge any striker, let alone a 20-year-old striker right now, because the team, quite frankly, isn't set up to get the best out of our forwards. The strikers are expected to do a very selfless job, and I'm not. We see Lacazette and Aubameyang struggle at the best of times. So I'm not surprised Balogun struggled, but I thought he tried hard. And there are a few moments where he turned and got shot away, and you could see he was trying to make things happen. I thought he looked lively. It just didn't come off.
I think he had one moment in the first half where he had that shot where he couldn't get his shot away. The ironical thing was, had that been last season, we would have got a penalty.
Right,
he was clipped, and they've changed the rule this year. So he got clipped.
And for anyone watching, let's clear up. I say for anyone watching, it's for me as well. Let's clear up what is that rule change. So essentially,
essentially, I think they've looked at if there's a follow through on a player, they're just taking the pragmatic view that that's not a foul.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Neville and Carragher were speaking like throughout the whole weekend about how the rule changes are suiting a more fluid game.
No problem. Which we don't play.
Imagine that. We'd have loved this 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. But anyway, just some final thoughts on the lineup. Anything in particular you would have done differently, or as you said, his hands were tied, maybe this was really the best we could have hoped for?
I mean, the decision he had to make was, did he bring Saka in from the start? He obviously decided he wasn't quite ready. So, no, I think that's pretty much what he had available to him. And I'm pleased that Lokonga made a start instead of El Neni, so I don't knock him for that. We wanted you know, we wanted to see what Ben White offered, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was probably the best 11 he could have gone with. But unfortunately, it's a result of us failing to prepare for the season, get our signing in, that we're left having to play that 11.
Well, there you go. Now, we're going to break Arsenal down. Attack and defence. There's a lot to talk about with both. Let's start with the attack. I know that might sound crazy. We conceded 2 goals. Very disappointing goals as well.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, my biggest issue with Arsenal, and I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, I think it sounds like it's the same for you as well. My biggest issue is how blunt we look going forward. And imbalance was a real theme of that.
Yeah.
What were your kind of main thoughts on Arsenal?
Yeah, I think if Arteta loses his job this season, it'd be for basically for performances like this.
Yeah,
I think we have all the ball, but we have little intent or understanding offensively what to do with it. Brentford were quite comfortable allowing us to have the ball where we had it, always defended on a back 8. Our problem is I think we do not get the ball into the box, so we basically have like 65% possession. We have more shots, probably not big chances shots, so 22 shots to their 8, 65% possession, but we do not create clear big chances. They created 2 big chances, we created 0 in that game.
Yeah, do you know, I saw that stat. I was having a little look, and some websites actually, when they're collecting their stats, they will write down not just chances created, but they will, and I assume there's a degree of opinion that comes into it. It's subjective, but you know, how many big chances did each team create? And it literally said 0.
0, yeah.
You know, for our and I thought, wow, even the cutback from Tierney and the Pepe strike, of course that's not a big chance. Pepe just did really well from the service. But it's staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, with 33% less possession, Brentford only had 9 less passes into the penalty box than us. I think that's a very key stat.
God.
So what does this tell you? I think that the way Arteta plays, the way we play under Arteta, I just don't think is suited for the Premier League.
Yeah.
Premier League is all about intensity, moving the ball quickly through the thirds, getting players quickly one-on-one like Brentford did to us, and moving the ball quickly forward. We do not play that way. We just recycle it from one side to the other. And I think one thing I learnt from this game, as I say, unless he changes his system, you're going to have many more games this season like this, and I think ultimately it could cost him his job.
Yeah, I agree. Now, one of the biggest things about Arsenal in terms of their blunt attack is really the imbalance.
Yeah.
I sort of think if you do one thing continuously, the opposition are going to suss it out.
Yeah.
So it's one thing not even doing your plan A well, it's also not having a plan B. Your tactics can go wrong. Sometimes you can be outthought, that can happen, but you've got to have something up your sleeve. What we were seeing a lot of, Kieran Tierney holding a lot of the width, but Callum Chambers never really got as far forward, and we talked about that kind of back 3 that Arteta likes to build with, despite playing with a back 4. But it was staggering, wasn't it, how much we focused on Tierney being the guy who'd make something happen, and just kind of hoping, give it to Tierney and let's hope we do something with it.
Yeah, it's too predictable, isn't it? It's basically too
predictable.
predictable. I think the thing is, if we're going to play with Tierney high and getting crosses in, we've got to get players into the box.
Yeah.
But Arteta's system does not allow us to get players into the box. Players do not move into dangerous spaces to receive passes or flood the box for crosses, and that's the problem. That's why there's no big chances created. He did put a lot of crosses into the box. He did create most of our chances, but ultimately, at the end of the day, if we're not going to put players in the box, you're not going to have players to get on the end of his crosses. I think Brentford were very clever. I think they allowed Arsenal to have the ball in those wide areas. They literally covered the width of their penalty box. They had 5. They played with a back 3, but it was always a back 5.
Yeah.
More so when they went 1-0 up. But they had their 3 midfielders coming back, so it was like a back 8.
Yeah.
And Arsenal, what they did, you had like Martinelli and Pepe coming inside, Balogun moving, staying outside the box, and those 3 players occupied roughly the same sort of spaces.
Yeah, agreed.
So basically it was too congested, and there was a problem for Martinelli. This created a real problem for Martinelli with Tierney coming up high. He's someone, Martinelli, who wants to run with the ball. He's a bit like what I talked about Pepe. We've got players in our team who want the ball up high to be able to get it under control and run at defenders, drive at defenders. We haven't got that in our team because of the way Arteta sets the team up. So instead of having Martinelli hugging the touchline, receiving, maybe going at the fullback, you know, coming out wide, he was positioned inside, inside forward. Tierney's the one he's got to move inside for to allow him to come up. They're well aware what we're going to do. They've got the players back to cover it. So ultimately, we played into Brentford's hands.
I completely agree, and that imbalance is the word. And I was going to pull up some stats here, some research we did. In terms of influence, obviously Chambers was our right back on the day, Tierney our left back. Tierney had 3 shots to Chambers' 2. Okay, there's not a lot in that. But in terms of attempted crosses, 11 for Tierney, 2 for Callum Chambers. Passes received, Tierney received 4 more than him, which, okay, fine, so they're both receiving the ball, there's not too much difference there. But passing into the final third, that's where Tierney really comes out on top. You could see that there was a degree of attacking intent. Now, I'm not necessarily criticising Chambers, because I think that's a tactical thing, but it does tell you how much we were looking to make it happen down Tierney's side. And I think you sent me another great stat. This one here, Kieran Tierney attempted the most crosses, 11, made the most penalty box entries, 10, and created the most chances for Arsenal in that game. I mean, yeah, staggering imbalance there.
Well, I think that says everything, James, that's that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, shall we have a little look at the goals we conceded?
Yep.
They're not pretty, but we do need to talk about them. We'll break it down, let's go through it.
Well, this is the first goal. And I think later we're going to talk about the way that what Brentford did really well on the day is they went long ball.
Yeah.
They did their homework on Arsenal. Arsenal did not do their homework on Brentford. I thought I did more homework on Brentford than probably Arsenal did.
You actually did.
But,
you got the 11 spot on. I got the 11 spot on.
I said
you knew what was going to happen.
I said they were going to play with 2 forwards, Mbeumo and Tony. Tony would look to flick it onto Mbeumo, try and isolate one-on-one with our centre halves, which they did.
Yeah.
And the one difference, he talks about the back 3, he shifted in this game to a back 2. So he had like Mari and White, and we'll talk about it later, why that was wrong, because basically it meant that Tony and Mbeumo were able to occupy our centre halves the whole game, and we had no cover.
Right.
So that was something which I thought he would have changed. He would have changed during the game. He could have seen that after 20 minutes and adapted. He didn't. But ultimately, we had a bit of possession. First 10 minutes looked okay. Brentford then feeding their way into their first game. We have to give credit to Brentford. I'm not just.
No, you're right.
They got their manager got his game plan spot on.
Yeah.
They played really well, deserved their win, and they're a good side, right? And they've got some good players, and their goal, I think, was ultimately, again, I think down to poor defending by us. And so what happens is that what you're going to show here is that the ball is headed back comes into Mbeumo from Pinnock, right? Now Mbeumo is going to cross it in from that side, and then Xhaka, who's back, gets it away from Yano, and the ball will spin out towards the line here. Now Chambers is then pushed out wide, and he clears it, right, and it comes back to Pinnock, who's going to head it towards Canos, who's sitting here on the right hand side of the penalty box. So when it reaches Canos, there's the positioning of our defence. Leno's covering his near post. Chambers is coming out. Could he have got out quicker? That's the question. But whether he could have got out quicker or not, he's got a decision to make here when Canos gets the ball, James.
Yeah.
Canos is now going to drive into the box. Now, he's right-footed. If Arsenal had done their homework on Canos, they would have known he's a right wing back. He often pops up on the left, but he's right-footed. Chambers has got a decision to make. He's got his body shape all wrong. He needs to show him onto his left foot. That's ultimately what he could have done. But if he wasn't going to do that, he needs to engage with him quickly.
Yeah.
You can't allow him to sort of back off, allow him to come onto his right foot and get a shot away. That's the mistake Chambers did in that play. As you'll see, he backs off. He gets the right foot shot in, beats Leno at his near post, as you've shown in your graphic.
Yeah.
Could Leno have done more? Possibly.
Yeah.
It's not nice when a goalkeeper gets beaten at his near post. He did take the shot early. I think it was quick, the shot. But I think a good goalkeeper saves at his near post. And later in the game, their goalkeeper made a similar save from Pepe on his left foot, down low to his near post. So that was the difference on the night. So Chambers definitely didn't defend that situation well. Didn't get out quick enough. Ben White, could he have come across? But
that was a question I had, but the more I watch it, the more probably not. Listen, I don't think Ben White had a great game. We are going to touch on that. But Chambers is, for me, at fault. If you're going to clear it, you clear it. You get it done. You know, that's the whole point.
It wasn't a great clearance, to be fair, but he cleared it with his wrong foot, his left foot. Pinnock, who got the flick on originally to Mbeumo when he ran into the box, the ball comes back to him. He nods it forward, and Canos appears on the right hand side. Chambers has then got, as I say, needs to get out quicker, doesn't do it, but once he gets there, needs to either show him onto his left foot or really engage with him. He did neither.
I completely agree. I thought it was weak from Chambers. One thing Arteta, I think, can learn from this is when this header comes in, Mbeumo, who was the yes, it was a 2 up front, but he was much more on the right. He's peeled off from his position to come down the left. Tony's come into the middle. Yarnell's made a run from deep into the box, and their right wing back, Sergio Canos, is on the left. Fluidity. It's just instinctive football.
Absolutely.
And I don't know why we don't see that.
That's a great point, James.
Let's have a little look at the second goal.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about this goal, James.
Yeah, this is arguably worse because at least with the other one there's a degree of quality from Brentford. But this just feels really Rory to lap, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's like going back to the Stoke days, wasn't it? And the fact that they targeted Arsenal with long balls to expose Ben White in the air, the fact that they were willing to get long throws into the box shows where they thought our weakness was. We were bullied by their centre forwards in this game, bullied by their centre halves, and I think this goal shows it. So when Sorensen throws it in, you'll notice here that if he frees it there, Tony.
Oh, my bad. Let's just take that back a step.
Take that back a bit. So as he throws it in, Tony has got to the near post. He's got 2 Arsenal defenders on him. He's got Chambers and he's got Murray. Both go to engage with him. He wins that duel as he was winning all night. He gets the flick on at the near post. Now once that's bounced into the Arsenal box, Arsenal got problems. Now before you run it on, the problem I had with this goal was before Norgard wanders into the penalty box to head it in, their centre half, Janssen, their captain, literally gets tight to Leno and literally pins him. Pins him. He has his arms around him, stops him from moving. If that had been Jens Lehmann 15 years ago, Jens Lehmann would have just shrugged him off, literally would have pushed him away. So it's weak mentality for Leno. The moment he did it, Leno should have pushed him off. But when he's pinned like that, I can't believe VAR, with all their checks, did not rule that goal out. It's a foul on the keeper, in my opinion. But once it bounces, the flick on from Tony, which you're going to show, it comes across the box, and then if you stop it there, you've got Norgard just wanders into the box, past Xhaka and Saka, who do not react, just let him wander past them. White's got a decision to make there. He's in the middle of the defence. Can he be more decisive? Can he get out there? He doesn't show the desire to get out there to get the header away. So as a result, Brentford once again score from that set play. And I did say last week that they'd be dangerous from set plays in the air. You did. And they targeted that all night with long balls to their forwards and set plays. It's almost
as if you did your research and everything you said would happen happened. No, but it was so predictable.
It was so predictable, and it's so disappointing though. More than predictable. It's so disappointing. The fact that we allow Norgard just to run in free, he just appears from nowhere, just wanders into the box, saunters into the box, and the fact we don't deal with it, we allow it to bounce in the box. There's defenders there who should have been more decisive and show more desire to get to the ball. Tierney gets out jumped, White doesn't react, and Norgard heads it in. Xhaka, as I say, is also in that melee in the middle there. It was an absolutely abysmal goal to Arsenal to concede at a time in the game where we, without really creating anything, were once again threatening to get back a foothold into it, and Brentford were on the back foot a bit.
Do you know what disappointed me so much about our defending and dealing with Brentford was that you're right, you're so right about Leno. Will Jens Lehmann have taken that? Or just other keepers, they'd be hounding the referee. Go look at that, look at what he did to me, and just or at the very least complain to the ref if you're not going to do something about it with Janssen there and then. That was so poor. And then, not dealing with it in the middle, but I felt the whole time that while we should credit Brentford, like as you said a couple of minutes ago, they were brilliant, I also felt they didn't do anything spectacular to beat us. It was very just effective and efficient. And what disappointed me was I thought, they're beating us on hunger and desire and work ethic. And actually, we got our problems going forward, but really, they didn't have to do anything special, and that's what really
it's the same story of Arsenal as it was pre-season, not defending well enough, and not being sort of like more intense, playing the ball quickly enough, and not creating anything, and that has been the story pretty much of pre-season going into this game.
Well, we're going to wrap up in a sec, but let's just go through one negative and one positive from the game. Ben White did have a difficult debut, as you've got here. He won 5 out of his 11 duels in total. 3 out of 7 aerial duels. It was a tricky one for him.
It was a baptism of fire for Ben White. We talked about all his qualities last week, but I think clearly, aerially, that's his weakness. And credit to Brentford, they identified that. They went long. They got the centre halves isolated with the two. And literally Mbeumo and Tony were a handful for White and Murray all night. They pressed Mari up high. The moment he got the ball, they pressed him into errors. I think Tierney should have been deeper to receive more of an angle. To play out for a press, you need angles to play out. That angle wasn't there. But for Ben White, it was a real baptism of fire, and he's only got Lukaku coming up next week to make
only Romelu Lukaku. Oh my word! Right, let's end on a positive. Smith Rowe was excellent.
Our best player.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought he grew into the game actually. Yeah. I thought there were spells where I thought, you know, but for someone who I don't think is actually a natural playmaker, you know, I think he's more of a pass and move. But I thought he did really well to just try to do what he could to get Arsenal ticking. Final third passes, pass accuracy, 100%.
He takes up such good pockets of space.
Yeah, he does.
He's such an intelligent footballer. Such purposeful runs.
Yeah,
the way he turns and glides across the grass. And he was our positive on the night.
Yeah, I agree. Big up Emil Smith Rowe. And actually a word for Sambi Lokonga as well, who I thought at times you could tell it was his debut and he's young, he's getting to the rhythm, but overall I thought oozed class at times. There was one great, I saw people on social media saying, you know, Ben White played it to Lokonga and he just let it roll and he turned, and people were saying, you know, people keep blaming Bernd Leno when he gives the ball to Granit Xhaka, but actually a very good press resistant player can deal with it, and what he did was take 2-3 players out the game and off we were on the attack.
It was a promising Premier League debut by Lokonga. I think not quite such good numbers as in previous games, but overall I think he was a positive.
Yeah, I agree. Now we're going to end on one final question. Let us know in the comments and I'll quickly get your take on it. Big game this weekend. Is it time for a formation change? Does Arteta need to look? I mean, is it a case of more signings, get the players in as quick as we can, or actually is there a system change that maybe might suit what we've got a bit better?
I just don't think the way the system Arteta's playing is not getting the best out of the team. He needs to adapt to the players he's got. What do I think? What would I do? You asked me what I would do, so I was thinking about it coming up here today. When Arteta came in, he won the FA Cup in his first season with a back three, right? And so I was thinking, you know, what would I do? And this is, I don't think Arteta would do this. He likes to play a possession-based game, similar to what Pep plays, and I don't think he'll change. But what would I do? I would play a back three. I would play White on the right side of a back three when Gabriel comes back in the middle, and I'd move Tierney to left centre back.
Oh, okay, wow.
That would be my back three.
Fine.
I would play Saka at left wing back, and I think he's got to go out into the market and get a right back. I don't think Chambers is the man to play in this system, so you need a wing back or a quality right back. And then what I would do is I would play Partey or Lokonga, Partey when he's fit, but Lokonga there at the base, and then I would sort of like play, let's say, that middle five. I would play, if he's going to get Odegaard and Smith Rowe in front, and I think Lacazette and Aubameyang in a two.
Fine.
So and I think that's to get the best out of Lacazette and Aubameyang if they stay at the club, and we don't know what's going to happen. So I would say the system needs to change. We need to. I think his success came through playing on the counter attack. I know it's going to be difficult to play at home on the counter attack, but you've got two difficult teams coming up, Chelsea and Man City. So I think that switching to a back three with a bit more solidity is the answer to go, and I think that gets the best out of Lacazette and Aubameyang in a two closer together up top, which is what I talked about last week. Don't think he'd do that, but that's what I would do. But whatever he decides to do, I don't think he can carry on playing this sort of slow, passive, lack of intensity football where you're just basically recycling it from one side of the pitch to the next and then waiting for Tierney to arrive and putting crosses into the box. That needs to change.
I agree. Well, guys, what do you guys think Arteta will do on Sunday? It's a big one. As you said, only Romelu Lukaku for Ben White to deal with on his second, or at least home Premier League debut. So let's see. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me, Graham.
Pleasure.
I want to say it's been fun. It's always fun spending time with you doing this, but it's just a shame we can't be doing it for a win. Hopefully next Monday we will be. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.